Welcome to a new episode of In Peace Stories. Our story today will take us to Japan, and specifically to Hiroshima. Of course, we all know what happened to Hiroshima during World War II and the atomic bomb and the human disaster that took place there. Hiroshima and Japan worked so hard in the post-conflict construction, and they brought the country and the nation to levels of technological and economic developments that the whole world appreciate. Hiroshima, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful cities I have ever seen in my life. Such a beautiful, elegant city, so clean, so organized, that you cannot help but to really respect what those people have gone through and how they developed that city to where it is now. Of course, it has a very good effort to keep the memory of what happened and to make every visitor to that city understand the horrors of war and the horrors of an atomic bomb. Yet at the same time, you cannot help but to see the hope that comes from such a beautiful place. So during one of my visits to Hiroshima, I was doing training workshop for one of the centers working on peace building in that city. And the training was for UN volunteers. About 20-25 trainees came from different countries, and we were about 4 or 5 trainers coming also from different places. After finishing the training one of the days, we went to dinner, myself and the other trainers who came from other countries. We went to a nice restaurant, we had good dinner, and at night we were walking out of the restaurant when we saw a young Japanese man, about 21, 22 years old. He was walking kind of across in front of us. And he seemed to be very angry, very upset, and walking don't, like this. And you can see that he's so upset and so angry. Few steps behind him, there was a woman, apparently his girlfriend or his wife. And she was equally angry and walking towards him. And she's yelling and screaming and shouting in Japanese. Of course, we don't know what she's saying. But obviously, there is something very, very intense happening between the two of them. As he's walking and she's walking behind him, he came right in front of us, and it happened that there was a big trash can full of the trash from the different shops in that area, full of trash. And when he came near that trash can, obviously by that moment he was already so upset because of whatever happening between them. So he kicked that trash can with his foot, and the trash came out of the trash can, spread all over the street. We were shocked and stunned, and we just stopped, frozen our place. When he did this, the girl came approaching him even faster and yelling even louder at him. And he turned towards her, and also in a very belligerent way. And the two of them came so close to each other, yelling at each other, and we did not know what to expect. And then suddenly, in the middle of this, the two of them got down on their knees, and they started to pick up the trash and put it back in the trash can. We were stunned by what we saw. And after they finished picking up the trash, and of course they were still bickering as they were talking while picking up the trash, but they calmed it down. And then they they covered the trash can, and they started to walk away together. And they were still talking, but in a much quieter way and less violent way to each other. We, the foreigners, we were so stunned by what we saw. And we started to discuss it as experts in peace and conflict, all of us. And we started to analyze, what is this? Look at the sense of social responsibility. Look at the common good that connected them together, that made them feel that this is more important than our conflict, and that how they de-escalated the conflict by virtue of their sense of responsibility to their community and to the betterment of their city. And we were just walking back to our hotel laughing about this, and talking about what a great example and a role model that we wished our countries and our peoples in different places in the world would learn from. As we arrived to the hotel, there was one of our Japanese trainees, and she had just arrived to the hotel. And we were telling her about that story. I told her what a wonderful example this was, and what a role model that many people can learn from. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow I can't wait in the workshop to share that story with the rest of the trainees. And we said good night, good night. Next day in the morning, early morning, 7 in the morning, I get a phone call from the director of the center. And he said, Amr, I heard about what happened last night, and that you spoke to that Japanese student, and you told her about, and that you're going to share that story in the workshop. I said, yes, what a beautiful story, and what an example for everyone. He said, Amr, please don't share it. I said, what? This is such a good story and many people can learn from, especially those coming from other countries. He said, no, no, we feel very ashamed. And the girl especially, she's from Hiroshima herself, and she feels embarrassed and ashamed that you saw two people fighting on the street in Hiroshima, her own city. And she says, please do not share that story. That is so embarrassing to her. I said, but the story is more significant because of what we have seen and how they solved this problem. He said, please don't share that story. It is very embarrassing and we don't want you to bring it up. Of course, I had to respect him. I was very surprised. But however, I found that even though I needed to respect this because of the embarrassment that the young woman felt, that didn't mean I couldn't share the story in other settings, because it's a good example to share. And here I am sharing it here because I believe there are many lessons learned. There is number one, the lesson learned about the social responsibility and how this can be used as one of the elements that we can advance as we prepare people to know how to deal with conflict in a peaceful manner. Second is, even though such a story is very beautiful, but be careful about the context of when can you share it and when you cannot share it. As beautiful as it is from my perspective, it may look like very embarrassing to somebody else. And therefore, if somebody is feeling embarrassed or ashamed by a certain situation or a story, and you think as a good peace builder that this is something good to contribute or add, be careful, assess first, and don't make assumptions that everything you think is worthy of sharing is actually good to share. Maybe it is not for others. And those are two important lessons that I got from that story. And at the end, I will say, it just added to my appreciation and respect to the Japanese people in general and to Hiroshima in particular. And I love to see more people in the world can follow such example and role model. I hope you like that story, and I hope to see you in more In Peace stories. In peace, Amr.